The following story is so bizarre that it has taken on a legend as strange as the Flying Dutchman. The Flying Dutchman was a sailing ship that was doomed to sail forever without reaching port. It is an extraordinary story that enters into the realm of both mythology and fantasy. There is a little-known mystery of a train that disappeared in a tunnel between Emilia-Romagna and Lombardy on July 14, 1911. The Zanetti railway company in Italy had made an advertising campaign for the maiden voyage of a new tourist train consisting of the locomotive and 3 luxurious wagons which would take passengers from the capital of Milan, passing through the spectacular views of Lazio, Umbria, Tuscany, Emilia-Romagna and Lombardy. Between Emilia and Lombardy, the train had to go through a tunnel that was 1 kilometre long, which at the time was considered the longest tunnel ever dug in a mountain. For its maiden voyage, the Zanetti Railway Company had selected 100 passengers from the local upper class and members of some families of the railway company. 6 employees accompanied them, including train drivers and onboard staff. The train moved slowly along its route to allow the passengers to enjoy the view while being entertained by classical musicians along with exotic food and glasses of champagne. Initially, everything went well, and within a few hours the train arrived at the tunnel. There was a small crowd both at the entrance and at the exit to see the new train go through the long tunnel. The train then entered into the darkness of the mountain, and strangely, it was never seen again. The small crowd waiting at the other end never saw it come out. Everyone was totally confused and bewildered, and eventually called the police. The police then entered the tunnel, believing the train had simply broken down. In the darkness of the tunnel, they suddenly came upon 2 passengers in a state of shock, but there was no trace of the train, the other passengers, or any sign of an accident. Staff of the railway company inspected the tunnel, but they also found no remains of the train and its remaining passengers. The 2 confused and shocked passengers that were found wandering in the tunnel were interviewed a few days later after they had managed to compose themselves. One of them made the following statement: "I heard a strange hum shortly before the entrance to the tunnel. Then a strange white fog had arisen that seemed to wind around the train that was literally swallowed up inside." He said it was a horrible experience, despite being able to save myself along with another passenger by jumping from one of the few railway carriages just before the locomotive travelled further into the tunnel. We both crashed on hard ground, and this is the last thing I remember of what happened. Fearing another disappearance or accident, that particular section of the railway was closed, and the Zanetti Railway Company attempted to cover up the incident as they did not want the reputation or credibility of the company to be put at risk. Over a long period of time, the brand new Zanetti Company tourist train's disappearance, along with its 104 passengers, was forgotten in the mists of time. But there is still the question as to what happened to the train and its passengers. If the passengers had been poor folk, it would have come as no surprise if the authorities had made no effort to find them. However, the passengers were from the upper middle class, so how was it possible that the newspapers and other wealthy relatives and friends would have let matters rest? And how does an entire train simply vanish into thin air? 10 years after the incident, a relative of one of the missing passengers came upon bizarre writings in a medieval chronicle of the Medina monastery. It told of a satanic metal chariot, along with black smoke, followed by 3 other, smaller ones. From these chariots came 3 servants of the devil who were beardless and dressed in strange black robes. The 3 servants of the devil began knocking on the door of the monastery, asking to enter, but the strong bolts, through the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary, invoked by the prayers of the monks, prevented the sacrilege. Is it possible that the missing train and passengers had somehow travelled back to the Middle Ages, and the language that was used in the writing was their explanation and description for that period in time? In another strange twist, it appears that the manuscript along with the chronicles were destroyed during the Messina earthquake in 1908, which would be questioned by many cynics. In August 1992, a Ukrainian newspaper published an article, "Ghost Train on the Roads of Ukraine," which said a ghost of 3 carriages appeared at the intersection of the duty officer Elena Spiridonova Shebra's. The train with the curtains tightly closed, the doors open, and the empty cockpit moved absolutely silently, crushing the chickens that walked along the street. It appears that from time to time a phantom train appeared for a few moments at the level crossing near the village of Zanetti in Poltava, Ukraine. The chairman of the Commission for the Study of Anomalous Phenomena at the Ukrainian Academy of Sciences, Vasily Levshaty, had been studying the apparitions for some time. Levshaty proposed that the ghost train was the infamous Zanetti, who was somehow able to travel not only in space but also in time. Levshaty claimed to have found documents and testimonies of a famous Mexican psychiatrist in Mexico City named Jose Saxeno, who claimed that in the 1800s 104 Italians had been interned in the local psychiatric hospital. The Italians were bad-tempered, unfriendly, and confused, who claimed to have arrived in Mexico City by train that had departed from Rome. Over time, some of the 104 passengers eventually integrated into their new environment, while others went insane and remained in the asylum. However, the train was never found. To make this story more crazier, there is a testimony left by Peter Ustimenko, a signalman at the railway crossing near Baklava, Crimea. In October 1955, Ustimenko wrote to the Russian writer called Nikolai Chechastin. He describes an incident very similar to other eyewitness reports. I rubbed my eyes. I thought it looked like trains couldn't go without rails. Instead, a steam locomotive and 3 passenger caravans. Both the locomotive and the entire train are not ours. They seem pre-war, or perhaps even previous. Travelling without lights from the side of Mount Gasfoot along the trajectory of the former railway. I even ran to the spot. No trace, no crushed tufts of grass. Well, pure ghost, a damn thing. So I thought, oh, it's not good. It can create problems. Over the years, there have been many other sightings in other countries, including a pre-war train with 3 carriages in tow which moved as if it were floating without drivers. The windows are curtained and closed with open doors. It would appear at night and then suddenly vanish.